Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Insaka. Thanks a lot. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks a lot for joining us this wonderful Sunday afternoon here in Chicago. My name is Victor Mwava. I'm talking to you from Chicago. We got Dr. Msoma there. Can everybody just introduce themselves real quick?
Ladies first.
Hi, welcome to Insaka Talk Show. My name is Priska, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland, also known as the DMV area. Thank you for tuning in.
All right.
Hey, my name is Winnie, all the way from New Jersey. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday.
We can't hear you.
I think Mr. Clement is on mute.
I'm
We
sorry.
can't read this. We don't read. Yeah.
My apologies for that. Hi,
No worries.
everyone. My name is Clement. I'm from Maryland as well, Silver Spring, Maryland.
All right. Today we have a very exciting show regarding all men are trash. So there's a lady on social media who says her kids are from different fathers. Why do men do men get the same stigma that women get regarding single parenting? Is that a yes or no? Who wants to go first on that? Before we dive into that, let's talk about the trending topics. All right, we got the Insaka red carpet event coming up. Miss Winnie, do you mind telling us about the red carpet event?
We have it's a gold carpet.
Gold carpet, got it.
So the Insaka gold carpet is going to happen in 2024 in May. And guys, we want you guys to come over and see what we're going to be doing. We're looking forward for all of you guys to join us. 2024 in May. The date, we'll be giving you the date, I think, by the end of next week. We're just looking for places so you guys can come in. Please bring your husband, your friends. This is going to be the epic. It's gold carpet, not radio, gold.
Gold. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Mawini. But before we go any further, let's have an icebreaker. I think I'm a little bit out of order, but let's do an icebreaker. Do you consider yourself competitive? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Dr. Msoma, what do you think?
I consider myself very collaborative. To steal from you, I think you and I've had a conversation about this before.
Yep.
I don't find myself as competitive as others might be. I don't find it as a positive or a negative. It's just I think it goes according to my nature and character. You know, I tend to do better when I'm connected rather than, you know, that's why I'm not a salesperson. I'm not selling anything in my life, you know, because I think I'd give it away. You know, yeah.
Miss Winnie, what do you think?
No, I'm not competitive. I think I want all of us to win. So, yeah, if you're doing something, I want you to win. And I want to learn from you because that's the only way we're going to change the world. If I'm going to be competitive, I'm going to be by myself. So,
absolutely.
Yes.
Miss Priska, what do you think?
I am very competitive. And for me, no, not
in a good way.
Yes. It's a positive for me because I'm a Sagittarius and I'm always trying to learn, always trying to figure out what's the next thing. I think outside the box. I'm a thinker, and that makes me competitive. But it's a positive thing to me because I learn and I'm forever a student. So, yeah.
Nice. But Clement, what do you think?
Well, I kind of find competitive as a more ambiguous kind of word. So I think I would kind of go with I'm also competitive. I love being competitive. And I think it's one other way that has really kind of pushes me to, in whatever things I do, whether it's sports, when I was playing soccer, you know, I mean, for you to be on the first team, you have to be competitive enough to kind of meet the standards. Whether it's academics, it's social, you know, so I see it as a positive thing because kind of, it kind of puts you, you know, it kind of weighs you in how you can fit, you know, within in any given kind of, you know, scenario, whether it's a game, it's anything that you're doing, you know. So I see it as a most positive thing because I mean, to set you apart from others, if if it's a situation where there has to be kind of results attained or something. So
Okay. I think for myself, I want to say I'm 40% competitive, 60% cooperative. I compete against myself. I want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to be better than I was last year. But when it comes into a team environment, I really want to learn, like Priska said, I want to learn from others. I want to leverage their strengths so that they can also leverage my strength and cover up for their weaknesses as they do cover up for my weaknesses as well. So I'm a little bit of both, but a little more, 40% competitive, but very collaborative in a team environment. All right, great answers. It sounds like all of us are very, very collaborative. I think there's a lot more positive when people work together.
Yeah.
If I can throw in an Ebemba idiom out there, there's a lot of things we can do individually, but when you do as a team, when you do it together, we are more than the individual sum of the outcome. Professor Musoma, what's the word? I'm sure you know what they say.
No, sir. I am blank on that one.
You just did not do that.
Something like we are more than the sum of our individual strength,
yes,
or something like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. No. The collective is greater than. Yes, the collective is greater than the individual. If you have something like that, on the other side. Let me hold on.
Okay,
No.
Professor.
All right. Let's go to the community news. I'm sure a lot of you heard about the Zambia national team winning against Congo Brazzaville. We won 4-2. So Zambia Chalo.
Zambia Chalo, congratulations.
All right.
Victor, I'd like to say something, if
Sure.
you don't mind.
Sure.
And I know we're not supposed to be political, but I can't help it. The politicization of soccer games, I think, must stop in Zambia. We don't want any former heads of states, future heads of states, any politicians buying tickets in bulk, and trying to weaponize a beautiful sport. Keep your political dollars to yourselves, and let's just have a game of soccer.
Namona, kuseke kukwini. Put it yourself.
That's a very
Enjoy the soccer.
Go ahead, anybody want to talk about that?
Let me go ahead.
I was just gonna, second, to what my elder brother just mentioned. Yeah, I think this is something we should, moving on forward, we should kind of talk about a lot, because unfortunately these political narratives are so much being driven into this kind of clouds. If there's a cloud such as a soccer game, like at a field, people want to kind of come in with a different agenda, So I feel it's quite unfortunate. And moving on forward, I mean, for my understanding, that sport is just one single thing that unites people, irrespective of religion, social affiliation, and so on and so forth. So I think that's something we should kind of condemn in its strongest terms, and just try to kind of, putting out more voices on that, moving on forward.
I totally agree with you, gentlemen. When you look at the history of our national team, there's a reason they were called the KK11, because we only had one president, and the national team symbolized the unity in the whole country. There's actually a history of politicization of sports. When you look at when Zambia won the Africa Cup of Nations in 2012, they were dancing to a song said something like "Don't Kubeba" or something like that.
Yeah.
So depending on your political orientation, they would say, no, you can't celebrate with the "Don't Kubeba," because they're like, no, we've won. I want us dance. It's like, no, you are not part of the "Don't Kubeba." So it's like, no. This is our country. We all have one team, one country. So Dr. Musoma, like you said, the politicization of the sport has to go away. That has no place in our country.
One Zambia, one nation.
Absolutely. All right. The Winnie Msonda Hope Foundation Gala. Miss Winnie has dropped off. Does anybody have any more details about the gala?
No, she can talk about it when she comes back.
Oh, there it is. When is it going to be? I can't read. 6 p.m.
December 9th.
December 9th.
Yes.
All right. Please, that's an authentic, charity that we need to support. Very low overhead if you compare to some of the established charities. So please, let's support our own Winnie Musonda. The next item, should we go on a commercial break or go to some of the trending topics as well?
I think we can talk about what the song that's trending.
Let's do the song.
So money.
So Your Map has come up with a blockbuster song, "So Money." I mean, it's got a nice tune. Did somebody want to say something? Did I hear somebody? Okay, so it's a very nice tune, very catchy, very danceable, but it kind of gave me some mixed feelings. Before I express my views, I think I'll open it up to have you, ladies and gentlemen, chime in.
Clement, did you hear the song?
I have no idea about that song, to be honest.
The song of Walinkana, you went, English and Bemba. Walinkana, you wanted to date somebody that has a TV, but now you wouldn't tambit up a TV. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense.
You right?
You know why I laugh.
Yeah.
It's kind of resonates with my situation, but go ahead first.
So it sounds like a lot of people have people that they can dedicate this song to from the past. I think Yo Maps, in my view, he's a very good musician, great entertainer. I mean, he's a natural guy. He's doing really, really well. But the song itself, I like it musically, but the contents of the song, I got some mixed feelings about it. He's doing really, really well. I feel he shouldn't be rubbing it in the face of his ex. That's my feeling. She's got enough things going on. She's got to take care of a child. I'm a strong believer in winning gracefully, and also losing, you gotta lose gracefully. So that's the way the song rubbed me. Anybody else?
And to me, it makes sense, and I dedicate it to all my exes.
Yeah, Priska, we're in the same boat. Go ahead, then I'll chime in.
Hey, Clement, I think Lady Clotilda is excited. She put something in the comments in response to what she said. Yeah.
So I haven't listened to the song per se, but just one thing that I may just say just off of this, but relating to this kind of scenario is that unfortunately, our Zambian musicians, sometimes when they try to come up with these ideas, what I think the biggest mistake they make, for example, being biased in what they say, for example, that song may be targeting to one particular kind of lady, like you mentioned, but where does that put that lady's followers who listen to your map song? It kind of alienates them. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It also happens in politics where somebody takes a side in politics when they're a public figure. Unfortunately, that deviates, the support and the interest from your followers. Unfortunately, so I think our musicians should be our celebrities, so to say, they should be mindful in how they kind of convey these kind of messages. As nice as they come with all those good ingredients, they also have to think about, the pro and the anti-supporters. You know what I mean? That's just
good point. Good point. Dr. Msama, what do you think about So Money?
I not so much about So Money, but about the way he's positioning himself overall, kind of touching on what Clement has said. If he's looking to be a brand ambassador for all things Zambian and be inclusive in his execution of his work, which he's become probably one of the most sought after, loved Zambian artists of our time. I think he might be a little bit more circumspective about how he executes his life. The whole showing off, showing his home all the time. Not everybody's celebrating with you. There's power in privacy and success. And I think that's a danger. I hope that if there's anybody who's listening that knows the young man, please counsel him. We don't need to know that he bought a Land Cruiser this week and a Mercedes next week.
I'll leave people to-
and an iPhone 15 the other week. I think it shows insecurity and the unresolved issues rather than victories. You know. So
there's a comment there.
So like Clotilda says, our artists are so petty.
I think we should invite Clotilda on the show right now.
I think we should.
Yeah, can we invite Clotilda on the show, please?
So,
producer.
Let's put her in.
But Winnie, what do you think about Somone? Is Winnie ready to chime in or no? Oh, she drops off. She dropped off. Yeah, I think to your point, Dr. Msoma, you know, the way Your Maps brands himself, it can go a long way. You know, he has potential to win, you know, fans from the region, and he can be even much bigger as an African artist. So he just needs to win a little more gracefully. I am in pajamas, so Clotilda because she's in pajamas. That's funny. So before we dive into the meat and potatoes of our discussion today, let's take a commercial break real quick, and then we'll be right back.
My whole life, my father told me stories about moving to the United States. He would tell me that his brother, my Uncle George, was already living here and let my father stay with him for a while. Through my Uncle George, my father was introduced to our cultural organization here in America, who helped him make connections, apply for college, find his first job, and adjust to life in a completely different culture than he was used to. The Cultural Association helped him get started on his new life. My Uncle George would bring my father with him to the annual Summer Cultural Groups Festival, and later, he would bring me. It was incredible to see so many people of all ages laughing and celebrating with food and song and dance. It brought back the best feelings of home and gave my father the opportunity to pass his culture, language, and values on to me. My father and Uncle George were very close, so when George died last year, my father wanted to honor his wishes to be buried with a traditional ceremony back at his birthplace. My father told me that because Uncle George had cultural group life insurance, he was able to afford to bring George home and have the traditional burial George wanted. Though my father had been able to honor my Uncle George's wishes, it got me thinking about my own family. One day, I'd have to make the same arrangements for my own parents and my wife's parents as well. Of course, we would want to bring them home and honor their wishes, but it would be a financial hardship for our family. There were a lot of things to think about, even though I really didn't want to think about them at all. When my father told me about cultural group life insurance, he told me it's intended to help families when they need it the most. It's not tied to an employer, so no matter where my career takes me, I'll always have coverage. The more people who participate and the younger they are, the more it helps keep the insurance premiums down for the entire association. Because my parents have cultural group term life insurance, there will be money available to help me provide the kind of service I want to give my parents. And by joining, I can put my mind at ease and continue to celebrate our traditions into the future. With cultural group life insurance, I can worry less and spend more of my time celebrating with the people who matter most to me.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All men are trash. So there was a social media post a couple weeks ago where a lady said she has a number of children with different fathers. Do men have the same stigma that women have when they have multiple children with multiple partners?
No.
Why not?
Go in.
We need to take over, please. I cannot say that.
I will.
Go ahead.
Look at me like I will. It's very easy for men who have 7 kids from different fathers to go find another woman, and you'll be believable like instantly, just because he has a dog, he has a car, and he has a home. For us
Yeah.
women, we feel like, oh, that's a good guy. But if I'm a woman with 4 kids, 3 different baby daddy, I'll be questionable. People are gonna question me.
That's down for like you are
You're a hoe, a prostitute.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it takes two to tango, right? Where you have a lady with multiple kids from different dads, that means they are a man with multiple kids from different mothers. So why do we have double standards as a society? Or do we?
And Africans actually,
Yep.
the Westerns are much the Western world, like in America, they really, it's not really a big deal if you have 3, 4 kids. Really, it's mostly Africans that have that stigma of you are poor if you have kids with different men as a woman.
So if I can try to dig deeper into that, obviously in a lot of societies, that tends to display poor judgment on the part of the lady because she keeps trusting other men. Why doesn't it also portray some form of poor judgment on the part of the man?
Well, a woman has control if you can get pregnant or not. A man does not control that. You, the woman, that's supposed to know, okay, I need to take my birth control. Okay, can we use protection?
Yep, Priska's right. If I know I have 4 kids from baby daddies, I'm not gonna have a 5th one. I don't care where you're coming from. Because right there, it's possible you're gonna leave me. So let me take care of the 4 kids that I have. Because once that happened, like it's a cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. You end at 4. 5, if there's the same man with the 4th baby, that's fine because you're in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are 4 baby daddies and you're gonna go for 5th baby daddy, I think max I'll put in 4.
Wow.
So my question to you guys, can I just chime in?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm kind of finding it a little bit more contradicting to what you just mentioned, because if you say you have control on how many kids you can have, you can have a 5th one, then in the first place, why having the 4 and then come in as dogs because they kind of judge you based on the 4 kids you have with different men?
Clement, I was just thinking the same thing. Thank you, brother.
Can I defend myself?
Yes,
sure.
please.
I was responding to Winnie's comment. Yes, if a woman has 4 children from 4 different fathers, especially in the African community, are considered diwule, right?
Yep.
But then again, at the same time, if I have me myself, I would never put myself in that position because that same woman has control of her body. You can decide to get pregnant if you want to get pregnant, and you can also the man does not control that. So it's not really, I'm not contradicting. Am I still contradicting myself?
No.
No.
Okay.
Now, if I can try to defend the ladies, do you think that sometimes there are some economic situations that make women a little more vulnerable? Let's say a lady has 2 kids and then he finds a rich guy who says, oh, I'm going to marry you, yada, yada, yada. If we have one more child, maybe she has 3 kids and she finds a nice guy, say, I'm going to take care of all these kids. A lady says, you know what? He's a great guy. He's going to take care of all these kids. I mean, he loves them unconditionally. But once you get knocked up, he's like, you know what? I'm moving on. So I think ladies in a lot of societies, they're usually vulnerable, depending on country, because some countries don't have opportunities for women, right?
Yeah. It is. You're right on that. But that's when you have a conversation with your partner.
Yeah.
Right there, that's when I can sign papers. You want to have a 3rd one? You have to make sure, because like Priska said, it's your body and you know it already. If you have 3 baby daddies already from somebody else, I think you should think twice as women. Like if I'm going into marriage and then my husband then wants to have kids and he has adopted my kids, because women, we trust so much. We go in with love. Even the money too. If Obama comes here, I can have another one. But it's just, I'm just saying that's just a laughter. But I'm just like, we go with trust and thinking this guy is going to take care of these kids. Along the road, he leaves. Now he gives me 4 kids. I don't think the 5th one is going to come.
Also,
Well, go ahead, Priska.
There's some women. So I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Okay.
There's some women that when they meet a guy, this guy is nice, is established. We have not decided if we're ready to have kids. I think before people were not doing that, and they just think if I get pregnant for him, he's not going to leave me. There's some women that just do that on purpose.
Yes, and I do agree with that, because there are some societies where they say all children are gifts from God. And also sometimes women get this biological pressure, societal pressure, where, sometimes maybe your mother or your grandmother is pushing you to say, can you give me a grandchild and stuff like that. So society sometimes pushes women into that situation. Now, but when you mentioned Obama, let me talk about a very handsome and eloquent man, Dr. Musoma. What do you think about this whole situation?
Brother Victor, first of all, I just want to thank you for acknowledging my handsomeness. On this public platform, I do work hard to maintain this.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyway, so but Victor, I like the point you raised. There's the issue of literacy. I think is a big part of it too. We live in a country where even just menstrual cycles can have a young lady not go to school. Mm-hmm. So if you look at those types of factors, so there's the literacy, the economic, and also access to birth control. Whereas in the West, any general doctor will recommend birth control to a teenage young lady who's in high school. So there's those factors. Yes. But then going back to the power, I tend to sometimes subscribe to the idea that sometimes women don't realize the power they have, because who created the young man that got the young woman pregnant was a mother most of the time. Right. And so there should be responsibility on the part of the women in terms of what they're putting out in the world. Because if you were to ask any one of us here, even Victor, you and Clement and myself, most of us, even our masculinity in Zambian society is informed by our mothers more than our fathers, because our fathers were very busy doing work or whatever it is that they were doing for the most part. So I think this narrative is probably perpetuated by women themselves, without our help, because, and this is me thinking out loud, Priska, I could see nodding in your head, because I feel like if they recognize that there's a power, when he said it very well, I can control whether I want to have a child or not. If you can control whether you want to have a child or not, then why in the hell are you having 4 kids from 4 different people?
But Priska, what do you think?
Men and women.
What'd you say?
But Priska, what do you think?
I think we should. Great point, Dr. Musoma, that you raised of saying women should take some type of responsibility. I think it's a 50-50 thing.
I think so. I think so. I think even when men go into relationships, nobody's putting a gun on their head to say, hey, you need to have a child. And when it comes to reproduction health, men need to own that as much as women do. I know there's no birth control pill for men just yet, but I think that there are so many mechanisms and avenues that can make sure that it's not a matter of, oh, you reach 18, now you can have a child. No, you have to think through this. You have to say, hey, you know what? I gotta be safe out there. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. So in as much as it is on women, but I think men need to own the responsibility as well. They need to think through and say, okay, everybody knows how children are made, okay? Now, once that happens, shouldn't the man think of it and say, how am I gonna take care of this being? Should you just move on and say, hey, she'll figure it out. I can solve one way. What kind of manhood is that?
There's a solution though.
What's the solution?
When you say there's no birth control, there's a solution.
Sure, there's a solution.
Fixed, not to have kids.
That's why men need to own that solution, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of societal judgments about women, but I think the responsibility has to go both for men and women.
I agree.
Now, in a lot of countries, why do men have to be forced to be responsible for their offsprings? Whether it's child support or other mechanisms, why do men have to be forced? Dr. Msoma, what do you think?
I'm smiling. I was reading Lady Clotilda's comment. She said vasectomy in the chat space. And gentlemen, we're in trouble. Let's handle this conversation well. Otherwise, there'll be a law passed on vasectomy soon. I still think that even when you study the male female biologically and how we are biologically wired, there's an aspect to male sexuality that is not relational from some. If you just look at us biologically, where it doesn't take much for a male to engage sexually. If we just strip the moral, Christian Judeo values, and as relates to the women, I don't know. You guys could tell me if I'm right or wrong on this one. But having said so, we should also not go against nature, because nature, no matter what religion you put on nature, no matter what laws you put on nature, there's something in us that is primal. And I think we underestimate our capacity for our primal selves. And so if you were to look at the two genders, male and female, which genders lend themselves to just being everywhere? And which gender lends itself to being less everywhere, just on the, scientifically?
Yeah, that's a very important point. When you look at animals, at the end of the day, we are mammals. And I was thinking about, I know people say men are dogs, but I was thinking about dogs in naturally. When a female dog has kids, it's the female dog that takes care of the kids. They would have, 8 or 9 mammalia glands, and all the kids just gravitate towards that female dog. When you look at lions, it's the female lion that actually hunts. It hunts, it takes care of the kids, and also the male lion. So there's that nurturing part of women that naturally makes them, capable of taking care of little ones, while the men keep on reproducing and just moving on and on and on and on. At the end of the day, men have to be intentional as well, because when you look at the outcomes where a female is helped, whether it's an animal or not, when that male elephant or male lion is around to kind of assist in the situation, the outcomes of the offsprings is much, much better. So I think as men, we have to be intentional. We can put all the blame on that baby mama who has 5 kids with 5 different dads. Those 5 different dads have to be intentional and say, you know what? How do I help that lady take care of at least my offspring? That responsibility needs to be on the men as well. What do you all think?
Go
ahead, Clement.
No, go ahead.
I was going to take you back to where you said men are dogs. I think the translation is men sleep with anything and everything that's walking. They will sleep with your maid. They will sleep with your friend. They will sleep with the teacher. They don't care who they sleep with, as long as it's a female that has a thing to go in. That's where the all men are dogs translation comes in. That's what a dog female does. That's what a dog male does. It just looks for a female and then just sleeps anywhere and everywhere. That's what women say men are dogs. That's what we mean.
Really?
Yeah. And I can concur with Priska, because while their dogs going, they have kids. And imagine if you have 10 of those, some more people don't even know how many kids they have. And it's very, very unfair to women. That's
No,
why
it's not unfair to women. Everybody should take responsibility now. I'm in between. I'm 50-50.
So,
Everybody should take responsibility.
So you know what's funny, Priska, as you explain about the terminology of why men are called so dog in that kind of context. I mean, there's a post on Facebook that I came across where this girl says, "Oh, all men are dogs," and then the guy takes a picture with a full bunch of dogs and says, "Show me your father here." You know.
Oh shit.
so that was just funny. So anyway, that being said, you know, I also like how the two ladies kind of emphasize on the point that, you know, women, you know, overall, you know, in our terms, women have got more of an upper hand, or, you know, in making a decision whether to have kids with many guys or so on and so forth, because unfortunately, you know, society is just too much judgmental and it's biased towards it kind of favors us men, unfortunately, you know, because you find that I may have 5 kids with different women, but I'll still be attractive to many women.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes, and the unfortunate truth is that these women are going to know that I've got all these 5 kids. They're still going to be throwing themselves to me. I mean, I remember when I'm sure most of us have been through this situation, maybe in high school, where you have this guy who's more like a starling in school, and all the girls are flocking towards him. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean. So sometimes women, as much as we should be intentional, women should also be intentional. You know, in how they, you know, in their judgment. You know, because we are the chasers. If I chase you, you allow it. I'm going to give you. I mean, they can be an oops, or you know, stuff like that. So the bottom line is that I think the responsibility kind of falls on both sides, but you know, because women have more of that, you know, like final say in this kind of situations. I think I kind of feel they stand, you know, like they're basically more or less like they have more of an upper hand in whether to be to have 4 kids with different men and stuff like that. You know, like sometimes that to be a more responsibility towards the women as well.
So I know Dr. Msoma mentioned that at the end of the day, we are animals. If you strip away the religion and society, at the end of the day, we are humans, and we are animals. But I think women are also animals as well. I know people don't look at them as animals. Men are animals and women are animals as well. What I mean by that is, that Clement, you mentioned about high school where somebody is a starring and all that, and everybody is attracted to that starring. Those starrings are quarterbacks, very handsome guys, and in some situations very wealthy. So they are portraying signals of comfort, signals of being able to take care of the offspring, signals of I can take care of you. So as animals, women also tend to be attracted to that, you know, because when you look at high school, like everybody has a certain haircut, and then the guy who has wet look, he's like, he looks more comfortable. He can take care of me. So we are all animals. At the end of the day, we're just responding to all these signals. What do you all think?
As we should. I think if you're going to lay down with somebody, you better lay down with somebody that you know they're responsible enough. If anything happens, they will take care of their child. Even before we get married, when we meet, you may not have it all, but then we see that you have potential of doing and providing for us. When it comes to women are dogs, we just becoming dogs because mwatu pesha. You know what I mean? Long time ago, women were not aggressive going for men. Mwatu pesha. Can we just leave 50-50?
So can I say, okay, we are all dogs, we are all animals at the end of the day. But can I give a little bit more credit to women that they can be animals with good intentions, right?
But Victor, let me just chime in on that.
Sure.
I mean, many of us having lived in this part of the world for a long time, you realize that sometimes, you know, the culture itself also kind of plays into these situations. I've seen women having many kids specifically because they want to be getting more assistance from government.
Yeah.
You know? Unfortunately, you see what I mean? It happens here. Okay, at the end of the year, I'm going to have $20,000 taxes from the government. You know? So let's not.
Hey guys, Clement.
So let me just read a comment. My sister Mwanalute says, "Leave the dogs out of this.
That's
they,
what I
they
wanted to
don't
say.
appreciate." And then Clotilda says, "Women are not dogs." But I do understand. Now, there are so many famous baby daddies out there. Elon Musk is one of them. Nick Cannon is one of them. Elon Musk's dad is one of them. Does it mean that if you have the means, you can do whatever you want and you can have as many kids as you want? But you're gonna go ahead.
Elon Musk took his kids away. The woman doesn't even know where the kids are. So
Yeah.
he's a baby daddy. The woman has no access to her kids.
So just because you're a multi-billionaire, you can do that. But if somebody's doing that on welfare, you kind of look at them a different way.
Because actually they used to get more money, tax money, and now they don't. I think you can only get up to 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they changed that rule.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. We'll let the people know who do that.
But food stamps is a lot though. There's like some people get up to $2,000 a month.
Oh my gosh.
That's a well-intended program. Unfortunately, there are always bad actors out there who spoil it for the good ones. But at the end of the day, I think it's not all men who are animals, and it's not all women who are primal. So why is it seemingly difficult for women to walk away from their kids compared to men?
It's
Because
simple.
we carried them for 9 months, they kick in our stuff. We have the attachment to them.
Naturally, right?
Naturally, yes.
So what can guys do to kind of nurture that bond? What do we need to do?
From the beginning, they need to have a relationship with that child as the child is developing. I don't know.
Can I speak for myself on this one?
Sure.
I have 4 children that I witnessed every birth, that I took classes for birthing classes, to learn about the process, and so there was an attachment there that still is. It's still very much alive. I think sometimes, especially in Zambia, there's a detachment for males. The men don't even go to labor wards. I think it wasn't even allowed at one time. And so yes, so the husband will be at work and the phone just rings. Oh, she's had a baby. Oh, thank you. We'll call back. I'm in the office. Thank you. And that's and I think so that level of detachment maybe might result in you feeling like you outsourced your responsibility. But then when you're present in the room, when they're telling you that the umbilical cord is wrapped around the neck of your child, and you're in there, or when they're putting up a epidural and then they have to tilt or whatever your spouse, then I think it gives you buy-in, from the get-go. So Priska, to your point, yes, I totally agree. I think that involvement from the beginning and through the process is very necessary. But I want to also say this. I think, as much as we Westernize and we think that all things Western are the way forward, there's something being lost in this equalization of male-female existences. There's a book called The Art of Love, I believe it's called. And it talks about how men in the Western world have even lost their capacity for eroticism because there's this fast, rapid equilibrium that doesn't allow for men to actually.
Please speak English, please. Simple.
And so I think we need to really, Victor, not think that all things that our cultures did were primitive. We need to ask ourselves why. What was the wisdom behind why our forefathers maybe said that we would not be in a labor ward? And I'll give you an example. There's a level of exposure that can be sexually problematic for a male in a labor ward.
Oh, wow.
When you witness the level of, this as well. I think there's something we should also be careful. I think sometimes we're in a hurry to say, all things in America is great. All fathers pay money and blah, 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 and then we're off. I think we should also interrogate ourselves and say, you know what? We've lived for thousands of years ourselves. We're old civilizations. Can we be so wrong, and these new civilizations all of a sudden tell us that, the experiment is what's right. You know, because the American experiment clearly is failing. You could see by the results. Let's just measure results. You know, and so, the level of hostility, violence, the outcomes are not so bright if we're being scientific. So we shouldn't run to all things American at this point. I think we should go back and say, when I witnessed my mother kneeling for my father to invite him to the dinner table, was this subjugation or was it just honor?
I can chime in on that.
Sure.
What you're saying about how we're thinking of things or how we're looking at things, like even the example of your mom kneeling at your dad, they had an understanding. Right now, I meet you in a club and I have a child with you, and then you're just out there. I can't give you respect because you don't give me respect. Because what people think about you have to be submitted to your husband. Our parents did that. Probably even some of us do that. I've seen Friska and Nelly, they did that when we were in Chicago. I mean, this and Dallas last year. But you can only submit to somebody who can submit to yourself as well, because it's 50-50. You respect, I respect you. But these men, they come and they tell you, I love you, we get married, you get married with our parents knowing about it, have children. He's able to leave you because you didn't even submit nothing. We don't even involve our parents. Someone told me, one of the counselors that I went to, he was telling me, you know what? Every time you young people, you're getting married, you don't involve us on the beginning. When you involve your parents, your uncle, everybody sits down in the room, you pay the dowry, you sit down, you do even chilangamanido, all that thing. It's a symbol. When he's about to divorce you, he has to come back the same route. And then you guys are making mistakes. You're not doing the same thing. So we found a man just marry you after 2 months, have a baby, he left. Men are leaving women while they're pregnant because there's no respect.
So Winnie, when you say respect, you mean from the men's perspective or just the women?
Both of us, because we're not following a tradition.
Yeah, and also, I also feel, I guess, modern marriages or relationships are way different from our parents' time. It's just so much different. Like for instance, I mean, based off of what I've heard from friends here in the diaspora, say women have more powers. Like women have been given more powers by the government or the system itself, as opposed to women from back home. And I've seen women coming from being brought here from Zambia, being submissive. Once they get assimilated to this kind of situation, even now they submit to their husband, it becomes different. So that level of submission, and I guess it boils down to friendship, relationship, and so on and so forth. Because the kind of relationship that I may have with you as a spouse trickle down to my kids as well. And I've also seen a situation where women have had so much influence on the kids, to a point where they can decide whether the women can decide whether the kids should love their father or should hate their father. This is happening. And then, yes.
It does. Ladies have a lot of, they do have a lot of influence on the family. But back to the point of equalization of man and woman in a home that Dr. Musoma mentioned, I think the American system has obviously pros and cons like every system. The way I look at a man and a woman, I look at them as a team. When you look at a soccer team, you have defense and offense. That doesn't mean defense is more important than offense or offense is more important than defense. From time to time, maybe in American football, they can say defense wins championships. It's like, no, it's not about just having the right defense. You gotta have, it's equal, but it's different, but equal. Does that make sense? Equalization of a man and a woman in a home.
Yes.
Go ahead, Krista, go ahead.
It does. And I wanted to respond to Clement. When you say women coming and change and women have power, like almost like they're favored here in America, there's a reaction to an action.
Yeah.
We just don't get up one day and decide, you know what, because I've met friends, I have friends that are Americanized. And most of the times those are friends that are not married that are influencing you. So this to tell women that be careful when you move here, the friends that you make and who you hang around with. They just don't change. Something happens that leads to you saying, you know what? I was submissive. I was doing this. I was doing that. Now, remember, in America, we all work. We all pay bills. Back home, women are meant to stay at home, clean. And that's where submissive comes in. I feel like it's misunderstood. Submissive is not just kneeling down, not doing this. No. When my husband comes from work and he's tired, he has to find the home clean. He has to find a meal. His uniform should be ironed. That is submissive for me. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
Women are not just changing. Something happens.
So
No,
when say something, Priska, I think it sounds a little bit more broad. So something can be friends' influence, you know, how they're treated and how they kind of assimilate in American culture, for example. Like for me, I also don't anticipate having a wife who will be kneeling before me. In fact, I'll be laughing at her if she does that, you know. Like,
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But that's part of our culture, though, back home.
But I guess, respect is not really demanded, but it just kind of ends. Because I mean, if you give a very good example, you come home, your husband, finds a good meal, clothes for him to wear the next day. For me, that's submission enough for him to understand, to say, I have a wife in the home that takes care of me. But you can do that, but let's assume you're equally working the same amount of time that your husband is working, for example.
Then the frustration comes in and say, I also worked 12 hours. You worked 10 hours. Some things you can do and some things I cannot do. And it's now translated as disrespect.
Wow.
That's a very, very interesting dynamic, but it's real. Dr. Msoma, you were going to chime in regarding equalization of man and woman in a home, different but equal. What are your thoughts about that?
The first point I want to make is where there's no tradition, there's no roots. And where there's no roots, there's no fruits. And so this hastiness that we have of adopting all things Western is disorienting us in ways that we'll never understand in the future.
Yeah.
It explains your maps in Zambia, explains the Zambian social media space that's just pathetic. It has nothing to do with who we are.
Yeah.
We've become headless beasts.
Yeah.
And let me say this. So for me, I've never dated a Zambian person. I was married to an American. And for the first time after my divorce, I dated somebody from home. And I'll tell you, and I'll say this publicly, I missed something I didn't know I missed.
Men don't say that.
And let me say this, it's not about cooking or cleaning or any of that's nonsense. It's about posture. It's about posture. And I think there's something beautiful in our culture that we have minimized and that we've lost. And I pray we get it back, because it has nothing to do with resources. I've been in a relationship with somebody that's very, very well resourced, and the honor that person presents, I've never experienced in Western society. And so, and this is an individual that is highly educated, very, very well placed in a corporate setting. So I wanted to put this out there for all of us to consider, to say, because somebody's, I think we need to really go back to our basis and ask ourselves the questions, why did our forefathers do these things before we become headless beasts?
That's a very good point. And I was guilty of minimizing our traditions. And I remember when my wife and I were dating, I wanted to do it the American way. Let's do it the microwave way. Let's rush it. She asked me to go home. I said, no, I'm not going home to talk to your folks. We're going to do it first, and then we'll tell them after the fact. She's like, no, you are going. You're going to talk to them first. And at that time, I said, you know what? And then 24 hours later, I'm like, you know what? I think she's wiser than me. She's more mature than me. Before you know, I bought a ticket, I went home, and the rest is history. So I wanted to Americanize, but looking back in hindsight, it was the right piece of advice.
And may I say congratulations and good job. Thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
that. I
Thank
can
you.
say it goes back to what Winnie said. Because you go through so much, mwatwala kabale, mwaikala nabakulu, mwachita, before you even dissolve your marriage, you're thinking about how do I
All those
explain
people.
this to
Mhm.
these people.
Mhm. So it's the whole process. It's all about having social capital. Once you deposit all that social capital, and then you start going through it, you're like, you know what? It's only a one too.
Yeah.
Now, but Clotilda said, if you adopt too much American systems, you're gonna be saying wearing beads in the waist is a cake. It's old fashioned. But Clotilda, we will never look at that being old fashioned. That's got its own signal. My signal, sana. So, what do you think?
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
But you know what, guys? I guess we should also kind of get down some of the comments. The very interesting comments coming in.
Mhm.
Just read them through as we wrap up. Yeah, I was just gonna say that as much as we may talk about our culture back home, we are kind of changed a little bit into American culture. I mean, I can give myself as an example. I mean, I was just in Zambia last week. There's just some things that I really miss. I was like, I don't do it this way in the US. It's what I mean. Like we've kind of changed that without realizing. That's why, I mean, dwelling on our parents, our forefathers' culture. I mean, it's a whole different world right now. Because even in Zambia, women are so independent. Women work, they make money, they do businesses and stuff like that. But the question is, how do this kind of dynamic change fits into a home? Where there has to be a mutual kind of respect.
May I respond to going back to Victor's point? You can work, you can be educated, you can be everything else. But as long as you go munga dema funde, where they funda you have that tradition and culture. Wakufunda, it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter how independent you are, it doesn't matter. You still have maintained that culture. So yeah, they've evolved, they've done all these things, but at the end of the day, you need to go through Munganda Bakfunda, like Dr. Msoma said. We don't even do those things anymore. So we need
Clement, the teachings will make a Playboy author blush. And when you and I came to America, we used to think people back home were timid and docile. And we don't realize how rich our culture is in even teaching our women sexuality. If just because we do it so privately. If we were to put it in books, people will be buying it off the shelves in America.
Yeah.
But guess what? We look down on it.
But why I'm saying, though, I mean, the teachings kind of still have that impact on us,
Mm-hmm.
I guess whatever that is that we're going through here in this part of the world, even people back home in marriages are still going through the same, especially where women and men are concerned, in terms of, how they relate and so on and so forth. So the teachings are there, but the reality on the ground also speaks something different, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, whether it's Western culture and Eastern culture, both of them to extremes, they can be double-edged sword. And I think as a group here, we are best positioned to have the best of both worlds. We can't be over Americanized, but at the same time, we can't be over Zambianized. So we do have an opportunity to pick the best of both worlds and really enjoy the best of both worlds. What do you think? Now, I think we are running out of time right now. I'm going to give each one just a minute to say some closing remarks. But Priska, what do you think? What's the takeaway from this discussion?
The best of both worlds. It's just something, and to relate to Dr. Msoma's point of not knowing what you're missing. I'll speak for myself. I'm so happy and lucky and blessed that I married a Zambian man that understands my culture. I am both worlds. I'm Zambian, South African, no difference. That understand, but there's just some food that you need to cook in your home that you don't need to explain to your partner. There's just some jokes that are funny in Bemba, some things that you can say, you know what, let's invest. Where we're going to invest? We're going to invest Kuchingola. Everybody has access to Kuchingola. And your family is coming together. So for me, that's what I appreciate about being married to somebody that I'm from the same country with, same culture, same tradition.
All right. Now, Winnie, what's the takeaway from this discussion of multi-baby mama or multi-baby daddy?
I'm going to say, I'll take maybe 2 minutes. So for me, right, I had kids. I was married before divorced. I learned myself very well. This time around, I'm going to go back to my roots. I did the right thing, but this time I was like, if you're going to date me before we even clock a 2 year, are you ready to go meet my parents? He was willing to go meet my parents. So that way I can start from the beginning. We are at the phase where we had phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So now we are working on phase 3 to even I can have his parents. I can see his mom coming over to see me. Like now I'm on a second phase, doing it right. You don't get to at the point whereby when you fight is over, then you will not call that man a trash, because when you go through those phases, you understand and you respect what you have. So I think at this point, I look forward to the future and what the future holds. And for those kids, for everybody who call men a trash, not everybody is trash. Most of the time, when you find a trash man, you trash that man, it's gonna grow up, right? It's gonna be a better man to another person. I think that's what I look at things. Because sometimes we find people when they're young. My ex-husband, I think I was with him when I was 23 to the time I was 40. I was young. So as he grew up now, I think what we were trying to fight and bickering is going to lead to the next relationship and he'll make it better. So as mine right now from divorcee, he has learned something that we're going to make sure this time around we do it right. So I think not all men are trash. She said.
Yeah, I'll perhaps maybe just say, I mean, a relationship or or love or something, it's a reciprocal. What you give in is what you get. You don't expect to give in 40% and get 60%. Sometimes, like you say, women are caregivers. Us, we are more facilitators. So I guess just having that mutual kind of understanding, and respect, results into expected kind of results. So, and then the last point I was just going to say that, I mean, men can be dogs if either you push them to be so, or you allow them, because yes, because we're also compassionate beings. I mean, if I have kids with a woman, sometimes, we equally feel that attachment, but sometimes women can propel to distort that relationship with the kids. So it's also how you treat the men, for them not to be so-called dogs like the topic suggests today. Thanks.
Dr. Msama, what's the takeaway?
The takeaway is a quote from T.S. Eliot where he says, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time." We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring, Clement, is to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time. What that quote to me is saying is to come home. And when you come home, you find yourself a stranger at home. And I think home has a lot to do with our traditions and our cultures, our food, our dance. And I think we lose a certain rhythm, we lose a certain stamina to survive, and, when we find ourselves in these, in Babylon, if you will, and so I think come home to who we are. Isn't it pathetic that we are now Zambians who don't even teach our children our native languages, and we act like it's Western. Even in Zambia, in Lusaka, you have kids that don't speak Nyanja or Bembo or Lozi or whatever, and the parents are like, "Oh, they go to Trident, they're at a private school." I'm like, what are we becoming, people? And lastly, in terms of men being dogs, I think there's my dog is a very loyal dog. So if you're gonna call men dogs, I'm gonna tell you, come and meet my dog. And if I'm the kind of dog my dog is, then you probably don't know what you're talking about. All right. So
I cannot with you.
So Mwanalute says, I hope Leo is not listening. Leo is my dog, and he's a wonderful, wonderful, loyal dog. And I don't think I can top what you all have said. But at the end of the day, you know, like Dr. Mutamayo said, let's go home. I think home is where your heart is. And I hope your heart is in your kids. You know, your kids, you always have your kids in your heart, male or female. You know, let's take responsibility of those kids. There are a few good men out there.
Yes.
But you know what? Sometimes even good girls make mistakes. On that note, God bless and have a lovely week. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.